If we see God as the source, the beginning, the thing that precedes everything else, as potential first. Without gender, it's not he or she, it's just the potential for life. With some awareness, self-awareness, but with no externalization of that ability to create life. Then what happens at the beginning is vibration. And that vibration can be modeled as what if. And we will only ever model reality. We can't know it. I mean, how could we? What can we know it with, this feeble little mind that we're given? We have to give a model. And if that model is consistent with our experience and books we like to believe in and so on, then that model will work. And then we modify our model and make it more and more refined. Sometimes we change certain things, but we get to a point where we got the principles right and we can build upon that. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to create a model for the nature of reality. So that's what we're doing. We're modeling the beginning. And in the beginning, call it God if you like, realized that self-awareness was not enough. It wasn't satisfying. That sense of wondering what I could be if I tried, if I put myself out and about, what could I do with this potential for life? That wondering, that curiosity, and the sense of also wanting to be recognized for being something special. That motivated the creator to move out and just have a look at what that meant. Two things then occurred. One was that the source itself, the initiating process, noticed life and the kaleidoscopic possibilities that can arise when everything interacts with its own free will. It's pointless putting out there a pattern and saying that's the formula that will make life be the way it is. Pointless, absolutely no fun at all. And so God gave free will to beings to carry on and be what they were. Life. It has the creative possibility in itself. God, being the creator, cannot create anything which is not creative, because creativity is the essence of it all. That's what we call it. Life, it's the same thing. So out it goes, and as unity diversified, the bits of consciousness that were the expressions of a diverse outpouring of unity, these expressions, in our case, could be said to have the quality of soul. In other words, we're not God, we're not that big, we're not that total, but we're pretty much the same as God in that we're made of God's stuff. And we've got the same ability to create things the way we imagine that they might be, to develop our potential into something. So we're little gods, we're godlike, we're in every way capable, really, of being God. But the more we are like God, the more close we get to God and surrendering to being God, and we're just absorbed once again into the Godhead. So that's what would happen would we return to God, and what would happen when we turn away from God and become curious about what would happen if. This engages us with energy which, in the densest form, when energy really, really, really slows down, it becomes physicality. And the process of creating physicality is that which the mind is responsible for, as much as the mind is responsible for everything else too. The mind is the name we give to the agency of creativity. So here, where we consider ourselves to be physical and having a soul, which is, of course, the wrong way around. We're soul and we have a physical body. So when we lose sense of the soul by becoming physical, we get not to remember the meaning of life, the order of life, the explanation for how it all hangs together. We forget. Now, that's not an accident. That's not a disappointment. This actually protects us from the diminution of self. By forgetting what God is, we have to recreate God. So some people don't bother. They don't imagine that God exists. They don't create a God for themselves. Those of us who do, we create God how we want it to be. We glorify life by making the highest version of it take the form in our minds of God. And our sense of what God is our sense of where we have come in our journey. And our journey is to, in a sense, bring God consciousness to bear upon life itself. And we can liken that to bringing light into the darkness. If you engage with the darker, seamier side of life, if you do things that are criminal or reprehensible or immoral or whatever, you saturate yourself with the absence of God knowledge. And that saturation is a very heavy energy indeed. You don't have any light. It's like being down in the deepest, darkest reaches of the ocean. You can't see any light down there. There's no warmth. And it's a bit like that for people that are getting lost in materiality, sensuality, money lust, sex lust, victim consciousness, all of these things, depression, all of these things that people do to close off the light. This deepens them into the kind of darker regions of existence until such time as they get this glimmer of something. Let's say hope or love or recognition or compassion or something which is light. And as soon as these people locked in the darkness see that glimmer of light, it's fascinating for them. Not only fascinating, it's hugely seductive because it's good. It feels good. Whereas the darkness, all of the money that you can make and the power that you can have and all the sex you want and all of that, yeah, I mean, it sounds great until you actually see yourself the other side of it. It's an addiction, all of this stuff. It's an addiction. And you fix yourself and then you feel good for a while until you need the next fix. That's what it's like. And that's what it's like for all of these pleasures that we indulge in habitually. They're all the same. And at some point you get that it's just not okay. It's just horrible. And life must be better than this, surely. And that statement to yourself, life surely must be better than this, is the beginning of the inquiry. And the inquiry basically is, where's the light? For God's sake, where's the light? There must be light here. I'm in this dark, horrible tunnel. Where is the light? Now, anyone who's asking that question, they might be expressing it by their love of animals or of nature or of children or of something innocent and beautiful and joyful. Just noticing that those things make you feel good. That is the answer to your question, where's the light? And if you see the light at the end of the tunnel, you walk towards it. Maybe a faltering step first, but you move towards it. And that is your journey home. And it's going to be circuitous and long and confusing and uncertain until you're at a certain level when you know you're actually on the path home. And there is no other way to go. There is no other place to be. There is only the path home. And when you're on the path, there's nowhere else to be, because the path is eternal and infinite. Because as soon as you get close to God, then time disappears. So all we can ever do is find that journey which is moving towards the light. Now, you don't have to be told what the light is. You know. It's different from me and for you. For me, it's more, let's say, beauty. For you, it might be more love. For somebody else, it might be more compassionate love, a different kind of love. We'd all have our different take on it at this stage. So you don't have to be told what the light is or where it is. You know, because the light makes you feel good, and that which isn't light makes you feel a bit dirty, a bit tawdry, a bit depressed, a bit down, a bit wrong. You know that, don't you? So we stop doing that in favour of doing that which makes us feel good. It is that simple. Now, knowing that some things make us feel good, and some things, even though they might make us feel pleasure, sooner or later makes us feel a bit bad about the pleasure. We know that, we learn that. When we know that there's, shall we say, good and bad, or light and dark, or what works for me and what doesn't, or what makes me happy and what makes me sad, and what makes me joyful and what makes me afraid of being who I am, and so on. When we've kind of calibrated these things are light and these things aren't, then the secret really is so simple. And this is the secret. Seek and you shall find. Whatever you look for is what you find. So look. Very often I'm asked questions by my students in a rhetorical form. What do I need to do to be happy? Good God, what do I need to do to be happy? Instead of actually looking at me and saying, what do I have to do to be happy? Expecting an answer. There's a big, big difference between those two things. So what I'm suggesting is that most people are actually looking at life, asking rhetorical questions. Oh my God, will this ever end? Instead of oh my God, will this end? This suffering? And the answer is yes. And then you say, well, when? Now. As soon as you actually look for the light. In every situation, in every moment, just look for the light. Nothing more needs to be done. Just look for the best in any situation. Be optimistic. Be of faith. And when you're then on track, you just go home. You're drawn back into the light, because that inner condition of looking for light sets up a magnetic state of being within us. And that magnetism is basically the statement, I'm wanting to be one with the light, please. Whoever's listening. And that message is in the form of magnetism that aligns with the other side of that magnetism, the drawing, which, let's say, is God's ability to hear our message and draw us in. I don't like this religiosity in my terminology. It's been dressed up in a religious sense and it's all warped. There is a magnetic force at the source of it all that gave rise to us all. But it didn't just throw us out indefinitely. Why would we believe that? Everything suggests that there's rhythm, there's the breath. In and out, there's the tide, up and down, there's the sun, dark and light. Everything that we can see is in the rhythm of out and back. How could we possibly imagine that the essence of life is different? How could it then produce rhythm if it was not itself rhythmic? It doesn't make any sense. So we can assume that God has breathed out so that we can experience diversity, and is breathing in, and the first persons to come back on the in-breath are the ones who are looking to return to God. We come first because we're looking in that direction, expecting to be drawn back to God because we're looking for the light. And so we're closer to God than the ones that are slower to pick up on this. And they'll come later. That's inevitable, because the out-breath must create an in-breath. Everyone who's currently engaged passionately in the darkness, they'll get it sooner or later. There won't be a choice. And it seems like that's accelerating to me right now. This particular period in history seems to be a time of people waking up and returning. I think that those who don't feel that will be hanging on to the darkness for dear life, but it's a very expensive life that they're engaged with. So all you have to do is look for the goodness in life, and everything will work out. It'll take a while before you bubble through your neurotic processes, but it won't take that long if you're committed and faithful. Look for the light, expecting to happen, and then just allow God to draw you back home. It is this simple.